Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Leap Expert Hour. And today we are bringing the very, I would say, uncommon country into the picture. That's New Zealand. I think I haven't spoken much about New Zealand in the past, but we thought why not actually compare the two neighbors, Australia versus New Zealand, and see which one will suit you better. Obviously, we'll not just be answering questions related to Australia and New Zealand only, but we can answer questions on other countries as well. So start dropping your questions in the chat box. And we also have a very special guest joining us from Australia, Sam, and he runs a YouTube channel called Overseas Student Australia, OSA. Right. So before he joins, I'll briefly run through this presentation, a very quick presentation, and of course, I'll be answering questions side by side. So start posting your questions, and let's start with today's session. Cool. So Australia versus New Zealand. So why we are talking about this comparison? Primarily because both countries are very close. As in, like, if you talk about the whole political scenario in terms of economies, in terms of whatever you call it, they are like very very friendly neighbors. They have a lot of agreements in place. There is Trans-Tasman Agreement, which allows Australian and New Zealand citizens and permanent residents to travel to each other's countries and work and live permanently. So something like what happens in EU as well. So yeah, both countries are frequently compared, and it will be very surprising for most of you that both countries also have a very very similar education system. So talking about both countries, the primary intakes for both countries are February and July. So February is usually is counted as one of the major intakes, but yeah, most programs are available in July as well. uh, Best part, the application fee for both countries is usually free. In Australia, some top universities can ask for an application fee, but in New Zealand and Australia, both most universities are completely free to apply. And to add to it, you also get conditional offer letters for both countries. So yes, you can apply without your final score or Ielts results as well. Talking about tuition fee, I would say Australia is a little bit on the higher side than New Zealand. So in Australia, you can expect to spend somewhere around, I would say it starts from 20,000 Australian dollars, 23,000 Australian dollars, goes all the way up to 45,000 Australian dollars for top universities like UNSW or University of Melbourne or University of Sydney. In New Zealand, the polytechniques will be cheaper. So they can cost you somewhere in the range of 15 to 17 to 20,000 New Zealand dollars. And universities can range between 25, 27 to $35,000 per annum, depending on which course you choose. Living costs, Australia mandates around $21,000 per annum as the living cost, whereas for New Zealand, it's around $15,000 per annum. And as per the PSW in Australia, if you pursue a PhD in a remote area, you can get up to 6 years of PSW, but usually it's between 3 to 6 years. In New Zealand, most programs will get you up to 3 years post study work visa. Again, there will be some conditions attached to it, and of course, the duration of the program will vary. So, I would say a bachelor's degree and above will get you up to 3 years post study work visa very easily in New Zealand. Cool. Moving to the next slide. So, what are the top courses you can choose in both countries? So, if I talk about Australia, so Australia is particularly very known for its engineering programs. It's known for IT and computer sciences. If you go into the interior provinces of interior states in Australia, agriculture is pretty booming industry. Healthcare goes without saying; it's needed everywhere. Nursing, hospitality and tourism, accounting and finance, social work, and also including elderly care as well in that. So Australia requires a lot of people in these domains. Talking about New Zealand, agriculture is famous in New Zealand. If you're looking to study dairy farming, so that's a very, very particular subject, I would say. And New Zealand is actually home to one of the largest dairy companies in the world called Fonterra. So yes, dairy farming is a very, I would say it has really good scope in New Zealand. Hospitality and tourism, I would say, because they attract a lot of tourists from all over the world. Viticulture, which deals with winemaking. So basically, New Zealand is also very famous for its wines. A lot of students also study viticulture. Business, IT and computer sciences, healthcare goes without saying, and engineering as well. Cool. Moving on to the next slide, what are the top universities? So Australia has around 44 to 47 universities approximate. But the top ones are called Group of Eight. And in Group of Eight, we have the Australian National University. We have University of Melbourne, University of Sydney, UNSW, Monash, University of Queensland or UQ, UWA, University of Western Australia, and University of Adelaide. And for New Zealand, it's pretty surprising. I won't say it's surprising, but again, because New Zealand is such a small country and they only have 8 universities in total. So the top ones are University of Auckland, University of Otago, that's where I studied as well, University of Canterbury, University of Waikato, AUT, that's Auckland University of Technology. Then we have Massey University, then we have Lincoln University and Victoria University of Wellington. So some universities may have multiple campuses. So let's say Massey has multiple campuses. Otago has 2 campuses. Similarly, there are a couple of other universities with multiple campuses as well. Cool. So how to best ask your questions? If you want me to answer your questions, try to mention your preferred country, your preferred course, your preferred intake, what's your budget, and have you taken the IELTS yet or not? And before we proceed further, there is a link which is floating in your chat box, and to speak to a counselor directly, it's totally free of cost. You can book your slot by clicking on that link. You can receive all the information you need about your profile, your university shortlisting, your SOPs and LORs, which form the most important part of your application. So a lot of students don't really pay a lot of attention to SOPs and LORs. But again, these are the first documents which get picked up once you apply for a university abroad. We'll also help you with visa assistance. You can also join a global community on Telegram channel, wherein we have around 70,000 students who are already aspiring to study abroad across all the countries. So if you want to make friends before you actually leave the country, go sign up right now. Cool. So I'll start taking up questions, and let's start with Imran. Hi, Imran. I remember you very well. Class 10, 37, 91 in class 11th, want to study in Australia with full scholarship. Is it possible? Yes, you have a good profile, Imran, but again, full scholarship, it always depends on multiple factors, not just your academics. Yes, you need good academics. Try and get better percentage in your 12th standard. Also, for full scholarships, a lot of universities would require, certain other, I would say, uh, material as well. For example, some universities may ask you for an essay, describing why you should be given this scholarship. If I talk about Australia, yes, there are plenty scholarships available at the UG level as well, which are 100% funded. So you can check out Monash University, you can check out Deakin, Latrobe, and University of Technology, Sydney. Also, Swinburne offers a plenty good scholarships, up to 75% as well. So if you want to try them as well. But I'm pretty much sure with a 90% above in your 12th standard, you can receive a minimum of 25 to 30% scholarship for sure. I hope that answers your question. Cool. Anjali, hi Saket sir, which country is best for accepting applications for masters with study gap of more than 8 years? So Anjali, basically what we need to establish was that what were you doing in that 8 years? Were you working? I'm not really sure what you mean by study gap. Maybe you mean that after completing your last qualification that you were working. However, if you're working, I think any country will be good to go. But again, I need to know more details about your gap. So if you can just, put your question in more detail, and I'll answer it, when I see it in the chat. Next up, we have Anjali Arya. Will 3 years grad degree and PGDM degree? Okay, Anjali, same. Okay, cool. Yes, Anjali, usually it does. So 3 plus a PGDM, maybe it's for 2 years. Then obviously you studied 5 years. Even if the PGDM is 1 year, that's fine. So it is basically regarded as a 4-year degree. So don't worry about that. Cool. Thank you, Imran, if that message is for me. Next up, Shubham Datta. Without IELTS, is it possible to get a chance in Australia or New Zealand university for masters, and can I get visa without IELTS? See, with Australia, with New Zealand, I think it's pretty much difficult, Shubham. But with Australia, there are some universities that offer you an IELTS waivers based on MOI. IELTS is not a requirement for the visa as such, depending on the university. Like how in Canada, IELTS is required for your visa if you want to apply for a Canadian study permit. But in Australia, if the university gives you an MOI, which is medium of instruction, then you can apply for Australian study permit without IELTS as well. So, but for that, universities look at your profile from case to case basis, and it is not guaranteed. So you can try for MOI, but again, it will depend on the university largely. I hope that answers your question. Cool. Ronak Singh, how are the job prospects for finance and accounting in regional areas? Do you think it will be common for states like South Australia to give state sponsorship 190 subclass in the coming years? Ronak, let's wait for Sam to join in, and I think he'll be a better person to give you a first-hand account of how finance and accounting is as uh, regarded as a career in the regional areas. So let's wait for him to join. I'll come back to your question soon. Uh, Rajat, same for you. Let's get Sam first. Let him join, and I think he'll be a best person to answer it because he's there in Australia and he can guide you on the whole citizenship and whole work visa stance. What is actually happening on ground, and he'll be a better person to give you an idea. Right. Tanya, what about librarian courses in Australia? One of my friends went there and studied some librarian course and got a government job there. How will be able to get visa for these courses? So Tanya, plenty, not just Australia, but even if you look at, any other country, library sciences is a very, very, I would not say it's a very common course. It's a very uncommon course, but yes, there are loads of programs in Australia as well. However, do check, which university you want to go to and if you have the relevant background or not. So, yeah, I'm not really sure about what kind of background you have, what kind of degree you already hold. So, I would suggest that get in touch with us, and a counselor can help you in shortlisting the right course as per your percentage as well. Cool. So, we already have Sam joining us. Let me just bring him into the session. Hey Sam, how are you? Good evening.
Good evening, Saket. How are you?
Great, great,
I'm
great.
good.
So, guys, welcome, Sam. So, I already gave a quick introduction to you, when I started off the session. But again, so guys, welcome, Sam. He runs a YouTube channel, a very very famous YouTube channel called OSA, or the Overseas Student Australia. And I believe Sam studied in Australia, and he's guiding students firsthand on studying in Australia, and he's here for next half an hour to answer all the questions you have about Australia. So Sam, we already have a lot of questions floating in. So shall I start?
Oh, that's yes, sure. Yeah, start throwing them in.
Cool. So yes, so there were a few questions I got. So starting with Ronak, and he had this question that how's because Australian government is actually pushing a lot of people to get into regional areas, and he's
Mhm.
wanting to know if finance and accounting has a good prospect in regional areas. What's your take on that?
Yes, so definitely, like you said, Saket, that the government is trying to bring a lot of people into regional areas, as regional areas are kind of struggling to keep up with the demand. To be honest, the city areas are struggling at the moment as well to keep up with the demand of the people
Okay.
because of skill shortages. But yeah, but in regards to regional areas, so there are opportunities and things available in regional areas. So when it says regional area, like the government has kind of given a very broad definition. As you know, it's not Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Basically, that's the rest of the Australia
Yeah.
is regional area. So pick any good city. I would say like Perth or South Australia, Adelaide, Gold Coast. They're all like pretty big cities. They're not really regional
Yeah,
towns or regional areas, but they're good cities, and you can have a decent career in those cities. And so finance and accounting, yeah, most of the cities would have those opportunities available, because accountants
right,
are needed everywhere, whether you have a smaller or larger populations. But yeah, if you
right.
move to very regional areas, like for example in if you're living in Victoria, we have Ballarat and Geelong.
Yeah,
They still will have opportunities, but comparatively to the city areas like Sydney and Melbourne, they obviously will have much less
yeah,
opportunities.
right. And
Yeah, hopefully that
coming back,
answers the question for Ronak.
yeah,
Sorry.
so coming to the second part of the question, and he's asking about state sponsorships, and I think I also heard pretty much about a lot of Australian states kind of giving out sponsorships as well. So, like, does South Australia give sponsorship right now, or
Yes, so the skilled migration program from all the states, like state sponsorship programs, are open currently. So if you want, Ronak, I suggest you to look up on each government websites, like look up for sa.gov.au, something with like migration.sa.gov.au, or some other
mm-hmm,
state migration. So pretty much every single state at the moment have got their migration plans, migration intakes open. So you can see like
right?
which categories, which occupations are they giving those
Mm-hmm,
sort of jobs or migration points for those things. So yeah, at the moment it's a good time to check those things in. I know you can't really, if you don't have experience and you haven't got the degree as much as such, so might be difficult for you to get it right away, but it's good for you
mm-hmm,
to plan ahead, like to see those things, what is available and
right,
what's not.
right. Cool. So I'm moving on to the next question, which is by Rajat, and I think he's got a pretty elaborate question. How do you get Australian citizenship after studying? So I think he's asking for the whole roadmap. So can you briefly tell
Wow.
us? I think a lot of students would be interested in that.
Sure. So I can tell from my own experience, Rajat, I'm not a migration agent by any means. I teach at, in a university and a college. So, I have experience in those backgrounds, but not as much in migration side of the things. But from my own experience, I've gone through kind of the journey, not citizenship, but at least permanent residency. So I haven't gone through the
Yeah.
citizenship journey yet. But once
Right. I think there has been a technical glitch, and right. So let's wait for Sam to join, and until then, I can just take one question from Manchi Reddy. All Australian universities accept BCA degree for MSNIT. Yes, most of them will accept because you have an undergraduate qualification in computer sciences. So yes, I hope that answers your question. Cool. Sam is back, so just let me just get him in. Right. So we lost you at your journey.
Yes, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. The camera is picking up, the stream is picking up different camera. So it's kicking me out at times. Can you hear me
Not a
properly
problem.
as well?
Yes, yes, loud and clear.
Sure. Okay. So I was talking about, my journey itself. So what I did first thing was, I've chosen the right course at that time when I was studying. So I did my master's of accounting. And at that time, luckily, it was a bit easier to get permanent residency. So I,
Mm-hmm.
studied that, and after that, I did my IELTS, and I had to score like 7 in each of the different aspects of different elements of IELTS. And once I got that, after that, I basically, put my application through for permanent residency. I didn't need to show any work experience or needed to do professional year, which students have to do it these days. So that's an additional step for many students. So you either do a work experience, or you have to do professional year in certain courses, like in IT, in accounting, engineering. They that professional year additional
Mm-hmm.
step has been added. And after that, yeah, you put your expression of interest. I put that in, and government will, you have to wait until government calls you up for that. And then
Okay.
once they come in, then you provide all the documents that you need to do that. And I
Okay.
basically got my permanent residency after application within few months. Less than 6 months it
Okay.
took me to get my permanent
Right.
residency. But the thing is, like, if it's a higher, just for the students who think like how quickly or how late it gets for your permanent residency, it depends upon how the needed your skills are by the Australian
Right.
government. So the high
Right.
demand jobs in high critical areas where the more people are required, those will obviously be looked at first, rather than people who are
Right.
like maybe they don't need as much of you at the moment, so they'll
Yeah.
put your files back. So once you get the permanent residency, then it becomes easier. You have to stay in a country for certain time frame, like three years out of a few years, and then you can apply for your Australian citizenship. And
Right.
you need to do a citizenship test as well before you can get your
Hmm.
citizenship as well. So there is
Yeah.
a little test you have to go through, which many people have passed so far. So if you
Yeah.
fail it, you can attempt again. It's not like
Right.
end of the world for you if you fail that test. But
Yeah.
there is a test and a couple of other things involved, but it's not a very difficult process. I think the
Yeah.
hardest part is to get your permanent residency.
Yeah. Right. Right. That's correct. Cool. So, Sam, can you suggest like a few resources wherein these students can actually look up these critical courses in demand? Like does the Australian immigration website list anything like that on the
Yeah,
website?
so I was, I think that's a very good question, because I knew that that's going to come up quite often, right? What's the scope of my course? I think that's a very common question by students. Like,
Yeah.
is food technology needed, or is a computer science a good course to do, or that course? So how does that get defined? So Australian government define it based on the skills like the need in their country. So they look at the skills list. This skills list
Hmm.
is actually developed by this organization. They, like Labor Market Insights. So there is a
Right.
good website that all of you can take a note of if you would like to. It's Labor Market Insights. Um, we can put the link maybe
Guys,
in
I
the
hope you're taking
description of the
notes.
video. Yeah.
I'll
So
just look
Labor
up
Market
labor
Insights
marketing.
is definitely one of those websites which I look up quite often also, to see what sort of things are getting in demand, or what sort of job roles are getting in demand, and what careers are declining as well, because there are
Hmm.
careers that you shouldn't take. Like I was looking up, there was a report on careers like manufacturing is not that great,
Hmm.
as if you say
Yeah.
retail is another one, like that's kind of dying sort of career in Australia as well. In some sectors,
Hmm.
agriculture can be a bit of issue as well. So yeah, you have to choose your course wisely. So Labor Market
Right.
Insight is definitely one of my favorite. Obviously, you can look up on Department of Home Affairs website as well. Time to times they
Hmm.
they publish reports on which sort of visas getting more, and which sort of occupations are getting a bit more response in regards to visas. And the third thing I would suggest students to do is also to look up for their career aspect also, which is a job website called seek.com.au. So you should
Right.
check different like occupations, whichever occupation you are in. Like I'm in accounting, let's say, so I'll put the keyword accounting in that search engine, that's the most popular job website here in Australia, and see how many jobs come up. And you can filter it
Right.
down based on the location as well, like which location you want to go or study in, like in South Australia, in Victoria, in Western Australia. So those are three websites that I really suggest you to all of you to check, to understand the scope of your studies. So Department of Home
Right.
Affairs, Labor Market Insights, and seek.com.au. Cool.
Right. I hope that helps a lot of students who are watching us. Next up, Tanya, if you're looking at MBA at a lesser budget in Australia, I would say look at universities like Deakin, Latrobe. These universities have cheaper fee than I would say Group of Eight. So Group of Eight generally have more expensive programs on offer. So yeah, like I would say if you were looking for something in Victoria, Latrobe or Deakin would be they are good options. You can also look at University of South Australia if you're looking at Adelaide. Then there is Charles Darwin University in Darwin, which is in Northern Territory. Then you have CQ. Then you have Edith Cowan University. Pretty lot of options are there on budget, but do note that you have to study for at least 2 years to qualify for a post-study work visa. So there would be a lot of universities in Australia that also offer a 1.5 year MBA. Don't choose that. Choose a 2 year MBA. I hope that answers your question. Um, so, Sam, I'll quickly take up one more question and then we have more questions for you as well. Uh,
Sure.
Feb intake, Mohit, apply as soon as possible because Australia is seeing a lot of, I would say, applications now because they've opened up almost after 2 years of border closures and universities are filling fast. So, ideally, group of eight, they stop taking applications pretty early. Right now is the right time to apply. We're already in September, and even if you don't have IELTS yet, even if you don't have your final mark sheets yet, you can still apply for conditional offer letters. Right. Next up, okay, so let's talk about construction management, and we have a question by Niranjan. So I think, Sam, this is one question I get from a lot of students. How's civil engineering and construction management in general in Australia?
Yeah. So I actually did, like a video on my channel as well recently about the high demand courses and high demand jobs.
Yeah.
And construction management is one of them in the top 10 list, and so as the civil engineering. So if it does tell
Hmm.
you something that there is a high demand, is high sort of, seek occupations here in Australia. And I would say that they're really well paid as well. So they're well paid careers. Like, for example, construction managers, their salary, average salary is around 200,000, nearly $200,000. So
Right.
that's a fairly, a fair amount of money that they earn as well.
Yeah.
Construction in
Right.
generally, like, a lot of students, even when they do part-time jobs, they earn a very good wage in the construction industry. Even general cleaner, like construction cleaner, they would earn anywhere from $30 to $40 an hour. So that
Right.
tells you the construction industry is to be the one in here in Australia.
Right. So I hope that answers your question, Ranjan. I think you've got a very valid validation from Sam himself. So go for it. Next up, Jamil, 12 scores, yes, sort of, because when you're looking to get scholarships, most universities would look at your overall profile, starting from your school till your bachelor's to your whatever degree you have. But again, I think if you have a 92% in your bachelor's degree, a lot of universities would be happy to offer you a partial scholarship, I would say. So I would say apply, and most universities, like I said, they'll be happy to give you maybe a partial scholarship, which is around 25 to 30%. So, but you have to apply for that first. Uh, Rajveer, New Zealand AUT is one of the good universities, and New Zealand has just 8 universities. And MSc in hospitality is a good course, especially in New Zealand because they see a lot of tourists, and that also goes for Australia. So tourism and hospitality are definitely great career options for both countries. Uh, Next up, I think you'll be a good judge here, Sam. So, Anjali has already done BBA and PGDM finance, and she's been working since 2013. So, as maybe what kind of course she can choose, and she's been working. Like, can she come for a master's degree or something, and get settled or something like that?
Sure, yeah. If she's been working, I mean, there is no gap in the studies, right? So if she's done just bachelor's and did the PGDM course as well, definitely the master's is the next step. There's no doubts about it.
Yeah,
You can't do another bachelor's unless you do a complete career
yeah,
change, but that makes questionable sort of action if you do make a big change in career, like suddenly working 8 years in a field and 9 years in a field and so on. So yeah, I think for Anjali, the best thing will be masters, and masters in accounting, masters in finance will be, I think, the best choice for her. So that if you really want to
right,
study any course, that will be my go for it. Just be mindful that getting, because I talk to many students from masters in accounting, because I sometimes teach that course as well, in certain colleges and so on. There is a bit of competition in regards to getting a PR these days in this course, because many
yeah,
students choose this course. Many commerce students, it's quite natural, for students from commerce to choose masters of accounting after finishing their bachelor's in commerce or bachelor's in finance. So just be
yeah,
mindful that there will be extra bit of competition in regards to your permanent residency side of the things.
right. And Anjali, because she's been asking this question for like before you joined. So yes, if you've been working since 2013, I think you are good to go for Canada and UK as well, for that matter, Ireland as well, for that matter. So Yeah, you can choose similar courses, like you can choose a master's in finance in both countries, so plenty good options. And on that note, why don't you guys sign up with Leap Scholar? So there is a link which is floating in your chat box. Go sign up, and our counselor will help you to get a really really good shortlist across all the countries you want to study. So yes, good profile, Anjali. Let's move on to the next question. uh, so next we have Parisha. 6 years of study gap would be, I think, very, very tricky. But again, study gaps, how to justify them. Like you said, you have 2 years of experience now, because she's just posted another comment, and she now has 2 years experience. But with the 6 years of study gap, I think with most countries, it gets pretty tricky. I would suggest that you get in touch with one of our counselors, and they can help you. Plus, I need to know more details. Why, if you were working, or whatever you done. So 6 years is pretty tricky, but again, that can be managed if we have a valid justification, but not just because you said that you were preparing for a NET and GATE exam, but that's not a valid justification, because you cannot be taking 6 years to prepare for an exam. So most
Mm.
universities will not accept it, and visa can be issue as well. So get in touch, and we might help you in your profiling. Uh, so next up, we have a question. Bachelor of Computer Science is enough in Australia. So I think let's generalize it more, Sam. So what do you think of doing a bachelor's degree is enough in Australia to settle down, or people have to do a master's?
It's not mandatory to have a master's. You can have a bachelor's only, and I've seen many people who just complete their masters and they settle down in Australia. And by all means, IT, computers, anything to do with that is kind of really booming here in Australia. My younger brother, actually, he works as a software developer. He came in
Mhm.
2015. He got his permanent residency straight away after finishing his study within a year or two, and now he's earning probably double my salary as well, which is
Right.
kind of indication he's in high six figures already, and he had a zero experience back home in India. So within 6 7 years he's gone from a guy who had no experience to a really high earning sort of person, and good on him to do that. But it just tells you how, if you are really good in what you're doing, there's a lot of scope in that specific IT and computer science field.
Right.
So hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. I hope that answers your question. Next up, we have Rajat, and he's asking. He's an architect. He's done architecture. So, how's architecture as a field, Sam, in Australia?
Yeah. It goes in like hand in hand with construction as well. Like if
Construction,
you see,
yeah.
like construction, is a big sort of industry here in Australia, and many there has been little bit of an issue lately with lack of workers, skilled workers, and so on. So architecture, is another very popular sort of course here. Many students study that. Um, it will be a little bit challenging if you don't have any experience, I should say. Once you finish your degree, so if you are back home, maybe start getting some short courses as well. This is what I suggest to all the students. While you're applying for your things, while you're getting ready for Australia, or you have some time to do it, take on some short courses. There are so many online courses you can do, learn additional things before you rock up. These days it's not just good to have a degree program only. Like
Yeah.
I have students who come to me and say, look, I've got degree, but no experience. That kind of hinders us. So it
Yeah.
is a little bit challenging to get a experience. So I suggest them to take some short courses. Like I
Yeah.
teach diploma of marketing in one of the course, as a course here in one of the colleges. And then we suggest students to take additional free courses from Google. Like Google has a free digital marketing course. There is
Hmm.
another good course from HubSpot. There's another course from Facebook. So doing these additional courses, if you are in IT, you can take a courses from Microsoft. You can take
Yeah.
another course from, there are a few other, that I don't have on top of my head, but additional
Right.
courses, additional upskilling yourself, because things are
Yeah.
changing. We're living in a 2022 different world now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I was coming to that only. Like for someone who's coming without experience, I think you would recommend short courses and projects, and maybe internships as well, for that matter, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Sure.
Cool. So, Sam, we have a next question from TK, and he's got a very peculiar question. And this guy, he attends a lot of our sessions, so I'm used to his questions a lot. So STEM masters, and he's, I think, taking a lot of student loan because he wants to study in a big city like Sydney or Melbourne, but
Mhm.
he wants to know if it's worth to spend that much of money. Maybe he wants to go to a group of eight. So what's your take?
Okay. Yeah. I think the one important thing to understand is what you expect. Not only just when you're spending that much money yourself, or you're getting a big loan, which I think most of the students do as well. Like you're gonna end up taking a fair bit of money from the bank, because no one's having that much cash sitting somewhere tucked in there. If you have that much money, that's great. But if you don't, most of us will be taking some sort of a loan itself to survive. So
Yeah,
what's your goal in that regards? If it's just PR, then you have other options as well. If you see yourself as like really getting future career prospect in regards to the job, in regards to how you want to settle down. So it is a little bit complicated. I can't just say that, yeah, hey, it's a great course, take it in. STEM is in a high demand, in not only in Australia but around the world at the moment, right? It goes without saying that STEM courses are really in high demand. If you It depends upon what sort of STEM course you're doing, because it's just too broad. Science,
yeah,
technology, engineering, mathematics, it covers so many different broad things. If you can be a bit more specific also, like if you ask me, okay, it's engineering or mathematics or technology, then we can be a bit more specific in that regards.
right,
But yeah,
right,
I think it's a bit of risk you take in your life, isn't it? You can't just sit down and
right.
hope for the best.
Yeah. So I think everything is I would say, whatever we do in life, it's like you're taking a risk anyway. So yeah, why
Hmm.
not be why not be sure about it, and work hard to achieve your aims. And I think studying abroad, it comes with a lot of uncertainties anyway. So do
Hmm.
your research well, I would say. Do a lot of research, and like how Sam has mentioned a few resources as well. TK,
Yeah.
labor market insight. Then we have the seek.com.au website, and then the immigration Australia website. You can check those out. So I'm pretty
Hmm.
much sure they'll be helpful. Lavi, I haven't seen your question. I just scrolled up to check. Please post your question. I don't have the question on my screen right now. Uh, Next up, Junglar, you already have a master's, and getting another master's is possible, but again, it has to be backed up with something like, some valid explanation, because universities are very particular. Of course, you can do a master's, but you need a very, very strong SOP, or a reason to kind of justify that why you do want to do another master's. So I would suggest that you get in touch with us, and we can help you with your queries better. Cool. So we have some questions relating to UK as well. I'll come to that soon. Uh, Next up. Okay, so all the scholarship questions I'm going to address pretty much soon, guys. If you have very specific, uh, question in terms of Australia, then just let me know. Uh, Next up, we have. Okay, so okay, let's talk about some hotel management. So this is question from Sai, and he's asking if which country is best. So let's talk in terms of Australia. How would you rate Australia in terms of hotel management? Is it a good field to choose?
Yes, it's a very good field, and it's always in demand because people's never gonna stop eating food, and Australians love eating out. That's the thing, and
Right.
not only that, Australians love eating out, but the tourism sector, we expecting a big boom because of end of pandemic means a lot of people is going to travel overseas, and Australia will be
Hmm.
one of those countries where people will love to travel. And so as like if you think about the events like World Cup coming up as well, so those
Yeah.
events that government organizes here, they apart from that, we have throughout. For example, I live in Victoria, Melbourne, Victoria. Events happen pretty much every single month of the year. So
Yeah.
that means that there's more and more demand for chefs, cooks, waiters, and all people working in this industry. And the good thing with hospitality management is you do not need to always have a degree. You can get away with
Right.
just a diploma courses itself as well. So you can do a
Right.
1.5 2 years of diploma and then advanced diploma in hospitality management, and you can learn
Right.
the skills of chefs and or a cook, and and those skills are usually in the occupation list as well. And you can look
Right.
up on like each states, like government website as well, like if they have a sponsored occupations
Hmm.
for those specific states and territories also.
Right.
So
Right.
there be good course to choose in, very popular.
Right. And I believe, Sam, I think for the hospitality people, it's pretty, I think the added advantage is, because most of the part-time jobs are, a student, what usually students do is like related to hospitality. And, that somehow I think counts as an experience anyway. So if you're working in the kitchen or a restaurant, or maybe, working as a front office guy, I think that adds up to your whole experience as well if you're looking for a full-time job later. Am I making sense?
Yes, 100%. A lot of my friends who got permanent residency through their, this hospitality courses, they actually were already working in the industry. I did work
Right.
in hospitality industry because I think most of the students end up somehow getting into
Yeah.
hospitality industry. Like
Hospitality,
it's
yes.
yeah, so it's a very popular sort of stream and industry to work in for part-time jobs, but it can turn into full-time, work as well.
Right. So, Sam, before we say bye-bye to you, just a few tips and tricks you'd like to give, all those people who are looking to study in Australia in the next year.
Yeah, so 2023, I think, going to be a really interesting year to study in Australia. Australian government is trying their best. I mean, recently they did Jobs and Skills Summit in at the start of
Mm-hmm.
this month, and that's where they announced that they will be going to look at increasing the post-study work visas.
Yeah.
So, which means the bachelor students can do, like additional 2 years, masters and PhD courses. Everyone's going to get a couple of years, but only in skilled areas. So, what I suggest
Right.
students to do is look up on, like those skilled areas on labor market insights and so on. That website is very, very handy to find those
Yeah.
skills and which areas they have shortages in. Apart from
Right.
that, these like unlimited work hours until the end of June 2023. That's another positive thing. So if you come in and work for next 6 months, and it's a good thing to have on your visa along with that. I don't think many other
Right.
countries are doing it. And so as like other opportunities and government, the new government, because there's a change in government from May 2022. The
Mm-hmm.
government is trying to focus on a long-term permanent migration than a short-term one. So they don't want like people to just come in, study and go. They want people to
Go.
stay in the country. And the
Right. Right.
statistics, the recent statistic was that only 16% of international students who come to study stay in the country after their studies. Most of them just leave. So a government wants
Right.
to increase that number, and Canada is, I think, 27%. So
Right.
there's a big gap in between Australia and Canada. So government is looking at that aspect from longer term migration. So
Right.
students, just focus on what you're planning to study. Just do a bit of research. Make sure that you come to attend some of these sessions that we run with Saket. Runs very good sessions, I must say. Yeah, I've watched some of his
Thank you.
sessions with other people and without anyone as well. He does really good job. So attend Saket's session for Australia, and get some counseling from LeapScholar for your career as well, because they're doing a
Right.
pretty good job.
Right. And for that, just check out the link in your chat box and go sign up. Thank you so much, Sam. Good night to you. I think it's pretty late out there. So we'll say bye bye to you. Thank you so much for doing this.
No worries. Okay, I'll see you soon. Thank you. Thanks everyone.
See
Bye.
you. Yeah. Bye bye. Cool. So next up, we have. Cool. So I'll start taking questions on universities and other stuff. So, how much percentage do you need uh, to get scholarship in Australia in masters? So, Abhi, it will depend on university to university and how much funding you're looking at. So, let's say if you talk about 100% scholarships, then these scholarships would essentially require a very, very excellent background, which usually is, a high, 90 plus in your 12th standard, and a first class degree. So, but again, there are loads of Australian universities that will also offer you, like 25, 30% scholarships. But again, that varies from university to university. So I would suggest that go check which university you're applying to, and Australian universities offer a lot of scholarships. And when I say a lot of scholarships, means there are so many universities that also have India specific scholarships. So let's say Deakin has an India specific scholarship which gives you 100% tuition fee waiver. Latrobe has 100% scholarship which is India and Sri Lanka specific. So go check out university websites, and I think they'll be really, really helpful for you. Next, Sahil, your question is on UK. So yes, industrial management, engineering management, and also in which management courses has more job opportunities. So I believe, Sahil, because you're choosing to study engineering management, you are an engineer, you have a BTech. So I would say, for an engineer, my personal opinion would be, you can go for engineering or project management, and you can also go for industrial management. They have really, really good, ample opportunities. uh, Also, if you have some experience, well enough, but if you don't have experience, start accumulating some experience, and it will help you in landing a job. Also, engineers, most engineers also, kind of do management courses. But again, for management, I would say, if you're fresh out of college, then go for an MIM or an MSc management in the UK, or MSc international business, or whatever field you want to study. UK is pretty flexible with that. But if you don't go for freshers MBA. That's my personal take. Uh, Only go for an MBA if you have 2 to 3 years of work experience. I hope that answers your question. Next up, TK. Okay, I think, I would suggest that you get in touch with the counselor, because I remember a lot of your questions in the past as well. Get a counseling session. I'm pretty much sure your questions will be answered. Next up, hello Ravi. Ravi, okay, Ravi has just posted his question as well. I completed my graduation last year, 55% marks, and completed 12th in 2018 with 58% marks. I also got 59 in PT. Which country is best for me for my masters? Uh, Okay, so ideally, Ravi, I think you don't have any gap in your 12th and your graduation, and you have 55%. See, in Canada, if you want to go, you can get PG diplomas, but not masters. But in UK, yes, there would be a few universities that will accept you. But again, that will also depend on, what kind of undergrad degree you have, which subject. So get in touch with us, and we can help you with the same. Okay, so Parisha she's saying that I had 6 years study gap because of health problem. Then I started my study with MCA. So Parisha, if you can justify your problem, as in what kind of health problem you had. See, medical issues, if you have some issues with finances, like financial crunch in the family, or maybe some personal reasons, they can always be justified. But again, if you have a 6 year study gap, and if you were not well during that time, uh, I would say that, still I would say UK would be a better option. UK will be more flexible. Canada is like very picky, and plus, there is a massive backlog right now, and uh, I'll not recommend it. I would say go for UK, but again, that will ultimately come down to how efficiently you are able to justify your gap in your SOP, and you need a very strong SOP, if with a 6 years gap. So get in touch with us, and we'll help you. Don't worry, it can be justified. If you have some medical issues, definitely not a problem at all. Cool. So I'll take one or two more questions. Uh, Meet. Ielts is optional in UK, and by optional I mean, if you studied from CBSE, ICSE, or certain state boards, many UK universities will offer you IELTS waivers. So yes, it is possible to get admission in UK universities. Uh, you know, without IELTS, but again, you would need somewhere around 70% or something in your 12th grade English. And not every university would give you an IELTS waiver, but again, a lot of universities do. Uh, and the chances of getting UK visas are much, much higher than Canada, to be honest, as of now, because I get this question a lot from students that Canada is, very high on refusals. And on the other hand, UK is pretty efficient. Yes, there are some delays, UK, in the UK embassy as well. But again, UK is pretty efficient, and they have opened up priority and super priority visas as well, in which your student visa gets processed in just 5 days and 24 hours as well. But you just have to pay extra. So yes, if you have the cast letter, if you have a good profile, I don't see any problems of getting the UK visas. Cool. Tanya, yes, you can do a diploma, but like I said, Australia has a mandate that you need to study for at least 2 years to get a post-study work visa. So if you want to stay in Australia, I would suggest do a 2-year course. Vishal, I need to confirm about IELTS test that it is acceptable by all Canadian universities, also which is the authorized institution in India which conduct these tests. Okay, Vishal, pretty interesting question. I would say IELTS is the only test, right, which is needed by the Canadian High Commission for the visa. So yes, a lot of universities may accept you with a TOEFL or a PTE, but to apply in Canada under the SDS category, IELTS is mandatory. So let's say you don't have IELTS and the university accepts you with a TOEFL or a PTE, you'll still apply under non-SDS, and non-SDS takes a lot of time to process, and the chances of visa acceptance are less. So the major criteria for SDS is that you need IELTS, and if you're applying for an undergraduate program, it has to be 6 with 6, 6 overall, 6 each, and for a postgraduate program, 6.5, 6. And yes, IELTS is accepted by all Canadian universities. It's one of the most primary, I would say, tests which is accepted everywhere. So you cannot go wrong with IELTS. Be it Canada, be it UK, be it Australia, be it New Zealand, or even the US for that matter. Next up, Jamil, which university is best for construction management? Like you said, choose from one from regional area like South Australia. So should it be one from GO8 or not? See, Jamil, I think a lot of people differ from, uh, you know, they have different opinions in terms of, whether to choose a group of 8 university or not. But again, for me, I would say that's my take. When you're starting off your career, the university you graduate from does really matter, and group of 8 universities have a lot of prestige in Australia. So let's say if I compare something like University of Southern Queensland, which is USQ and UQ, UQ does have a lot of value attached to it. But again, that being said, group of 8 is actually expensive. There are expensive universities to study at. So yeah, plan your budget accordingly, and if you think that you can afford the kind of fee they command, then definitely group of 8. Okay, TK, pretty interesting. Now you're posting your questions in Hindi. uh, uh, if you're getting in Sydney, then of course, I cannot say because I'm not really sure which kind of course you're targeting. So have you checked out smaller city, not smaller cities, but cities like Perth or Hobart or Adelaide, these kind of cities, because they are also regional areas and you can get uh, you know extended work permit. Abhi, I've answered your question. uh, cool. Let me just take one. Vishal, I've picked up your question as well. See, this software I know I use for these live sessions, it kind of keeps on, floating questions, and I kind of miss some questions, but I'm scrolling right now if I missed some questions from you. Uh, on paper, what is preferred? Jitesh, I think both IELTS and PT is accepted. But again, I would say if you're not sure about which country you want to go to, IELTS is one exam which I always recommend, that even if you want to change your country at the last moment. So let's say not many universities in Canada will accept a PTE. So let's say you change your plan from Australia to Canada. So most likely, a lot of universities will not accept PTE, and even if they accept PTE, then you have to apply under non-SDS. So I would say IELTS has the maximum acceptance, and IELTS academic. Uh, Shivam Rajput, a lot of universities do accept PT in the UK, but again, I don't have the exact number. And to be honest, it is remotely impossible for a human being to remember, how many universities actually accept PT. But PT is getting a lot more accepted in the UK right now. So check out the university you want to apply for. Next up, I'll pick up one more question. Mohammed Suleiman, yes, Deakin is good for bachelor's in computer science. I hope that answers your question. Cool. Let me just pick up one more question and we can wrap up today's session. Janglar Yenumi, Brisbane is not a regional city. It's a city. It's not regional area. Okay, I'll pick up Abhi's question. Okay, detailed question. I just saw that. 79% 12th, BCA third year. Until now, I have 7 CGPA. So I hear the final year is matter more. So how much CGPA do you get in the scholarship? Ideally, I think if you have 7 CGPA, Abhi, I think most don't. I would say with a 7 CGPA, getting a scholarship in group of 8 would be a problem. Like because group of 8 sees a lot of competition. But I think Deakin, Latrobe, Swinburne, RMIT, Macquarie, UTS. See, I'm giving you names as well. UTAS, University of Tasmania, University of South Australia, ECU, Murdoch University, CDU. All these universities can give you anywhere between 20 to 25% scholarship for sure. That is something I can predict, and that is something I have seen in the past as well. Cool. I'm so sorry I delayed your question, but again, thank you so much, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the session today. And I'll be back with another session soon. And until then, just keep watching my videos on our channel. And I'm sorry if I could not take a lot of questions. I missed out on few questions. I'll take one last question. Inderjeet Singh. So I don't want anyone to leave disappointed. I would go with cybersecurity because it's the course of the future. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you most probably next week. I'm not really sure when, but we have a few sessions planned next week as well. So let's catch up next week. Thank you so much. And yeah, Vishal and Aja, okay. For IELTS, if you want to register for IELTS, earlier British Council and IDP used to conduct IELTS. Now just IDP does that. So if you want to register for IELTS, you can connect with IDP. You can just go to IDP website and register for IELTS. If you want IELTS coaching, then I would say you can come to us, LeapScholar. Cool. Okay, guys. Bye-bye, and see you next week. Thank you so much.